Those of you who have been watching me on the channel for the last few years may remember I had a car in District Green as well. It's very, very similar. That was a diesel. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about the boot. It's still there. There's space for charging, your charging cables to go to. Weirdly enough, you don't seem to be able to lift up the floor at all. Same with the back. They're a little bit scabby with the USB charging points, I think, you know, particularly USB-C. But it's very comfortable in the back for two people. You get your own climate control. And in the front, I mean, the interior is getting a little bit dated now. There's nothing wrong with it. It's very high quality, but the entertainment system, thankfully this has the digital cockpit. It's like only a couple of £100. It's well worth it. The last Q5 I used on the channel actually had needles for doing your speedo and all that stuff. So the interior perhaps getting a little bit outdated now at this stage, but there is a new Q5 not too far away. And if you watch the video review of the Audi Q6 e-tron I had recently, that's a totally different interior. So that's kind of where Audi are going, and it's very, very nice. But for now, we're still stuck with this one. I'll get into it on the drive, but the ride quality is really, really good. It sits quite high, and you can see the shocks and stuff here. Like, there's quite a gap between the arches, which visually may not look great, but it does allow for a very comfortable driving experience as a result of that. So if you want to watch the more in-depth video of the Q5, it's essentially the same car. You can hit that link. Today we're just going to go for a spin in the PHEV and see, is the petrol one worth the extra few quid. I don't want to overdo it by saying, you know, the suspension is soft. It's not. It's still an S-line. There's still 20-inch alloy wheels in the car. So you do feel the bumps, but it's actually very forgiving. I know that's kind of a contradiction of terms, but I've gone over ramps in this car today where I go over other ramps and you're just like, ugh. And you can only go over them faster in this car. Although don't get me started on ramps though, because they potentially slow traffic down, but people have to speed away from them, the wear and tear on brakes and all this stuff that's coming off the tires. And anyway, it's not a ramp review. If you plug this in, you will get this car to do 4 litres per 100 kilometres, maybe even better, which for a combined 300 brake horsepower petrol, large enough car, is pretty good. If you don't charge it, then you're going to see somewhere between 10 and 12 litres per 100 kilometres, and it will be thirsty enough. So the default is it starts up in EV mode, and if you've got enough charge in the car, it will run on that. Should be good for about 60 kilometres in just electric. I haven't really driven it like that because I just let it do the hybrid thing and let it just use the combination of the two, and that's how you get the decent fuel economy. Particularly if you're driving on motorways and stuff, there's no point using just EV because you're going to deplete the battery pretty quickly. You can charge using the petrol engine to get more range into your car, or you can maintain it. So if you have like 50% state of charge in your battery and you know you're going to a zero or low emissions area later on, you can hold on to that 50%. You just got to remember to hold it every time you start the vehicle. Gearbox also has an S mode in it, and you have the paddles where you can manually manipulate, but I think you're probably just going to leave it into auto. In the back you have heat insulating glass. I don't know if that makes the cabin any quieter, but it is a quiet vehicle. You don't hear much from the outside world. There's a little bit of tire noise, and again, these are the larger wheels, so that is kind of to be expected. Steering it's light, maybe even a little bit too light at times, and there's no great sense of feedback from it necessarily. What is really good is that just the shift from full petrol and back to EV, even when your battery is, as you can see, it's depleted, there's always still a little bit in there. So when you're pulling away from light or anything, it's a smoother transition. But the transition between the two, it's married very, very well. Something else that I think is really worth considering is the fact that this car is quattro. And it doesn't snow that often in Ireland, but it does rain a lot in Ireland. Like today is a typical Irish kind of wintry day. It's not bucketing down, but the roads are wet and slippy and greasy. And in this car, even if you plant it, there is just no budging. It is solid. It's grippy. And I think there's something kind of reassuring in that, depending on the type of driving you're going to be doing. But it is a little bit reassuring to have all that extra grip, in my opinion. So I guess if you're considering this car and you're thinking about the hybrid, you will be good for it if you charge it. Will you see that full sort of 60-ish kilometers out of a charge? It's probably unlikely, but I'd imagine you definitely get you know, somewhere between 40 and 50. So if your commute was in that, and again, you're not driving at motorway speeds, then you will achieve that. And as long as you have the charger at home, you know, you can keep it topped up, and then you will run this thing fairly efficiently. I don't know how overly concerned you would be about fuel usage. I mean, everyone's trying to save a few quid here and there, but again, another contradiction is, well, you're trying to spend nearly €70,000 on an Audi. So the other things that niggle me, and I say time and time and again, and I really do love Audi. I love everything they stand for. I love their interiors. I think they've got some cracking looking cars. They're generally really good to drive. They're just kind of scabby when it comes to the standard equipment. There's no blind spot in this car. There's no sat nav in this car. Now, you can just plug in your CarPlay or do it wirelessly, whatever, and that's fine. But, you know, when you're looking around you, and it's not where you're looking for where the money went, because, you know, it is really high quality. Like, there's no scratchy plastic. There's not a rattle. It is beautifully put together. But it's just things like the blind spot, and you just go, come on, lads, you know? That's my gripe. Look, you can spec these things as part of a pack. You know, this is a bit of a black pack on it, and there's a few different, like, they charge you extra for if your sun visor. If you want a light, as far as I know, they charge you 65 quid to have a vanity light over the passenger side. I'm fairly sure I saw that on the website today. So really efficient to run. I think it looks very, very stylish. I love the colour. District. Maybe not everyone's cup of tea. It's kind of like an army green, perhaps, but I think it actually looks kind of cool. And with so many blacks and silvers and greys these days, it's nice to have something that's just a little bit different. We're not a million miles away from a whole barrage of new Audi models coming over the next sort of 12 to 18 months. As far as I know, they're launching, I think, 25 different cars. So if you are looking to buy something like this that has been around for a while, I'd be trying to negotiate as best you can. And just drop in that there's a new model coming, you know, and just see if that gets you anywhere with the salesperson. Anyway, it's time for the summary of the Audi Q5. If you want to support what is a totally, fully independent YouTube channel, you can go to the link buymeacoffee.com/Nobby on cars. You can literally buy me the price of a coffee, or you can subscribe, or you can Patreon, or you can super chat, or there's something else then you can pay like 3 quid here on YouTube if you want to give us a tip, if we've helped you not have to go around to 20 dealerships. Maybe we've helped it narrow it down that you only need to go to 5. Anyway, time for the summary. Really comfortable, loads of space, great over bumps, nice suspension, looks great. It's got an Audi badge, and if you don't go too mad in the extras, I think there's warrant for actually just getting a PHEV in a nice spec Audi and not worrying about charging. Thanks for watching. Talk to you in the next one.